Okay, I think I'm recording. I pray I'm recording. Okay. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna start. I don't have much time. This is gonna be so
Hey y'all,
good.
welcome back or welcome to the Pickle Jar. This is What's the Dill? I'm your host, Mackenzie Pickle. This past week has been something else. For me personally, I built a patio couch out of old pallets with my grandfather. It was a great time, great experience. I'm really happy him and I did it together. We have another project outdoors that we're still working on. It's kind of the same project. We're making a chair too, so we're working on that. I also locked myself out of the house, so that was awesome on my way to church, so that was great. But luckily, my landlord was able to get me back in, so that's good. In the pop culture sphere, a few things have happened. Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fought, kinda. I have a few thoughts on the subject. I mean, it's Mike Tyson. Like, Mike Tyson is the GOAT. But he's also in his late 50s. I don't know. It was, I don't know how I feel about the whole production. In other news, John Krasinski was named People's Sexiest Man Alive for 2024. When this was announced, I saw online a few people having mixed feelings. We're kind of like back and forth on if they agree, if they like it, whatnot. I mean, I personally love John Krasinski. He really took the world by storm as Jim Halpert in The Office. I mean, he was like the sitcom boyfriend for a long time, and he's got everything. He's charming, he's funny, he's smart, he's creative, he's sweet. Also, I mean, his character Jim, which I'm assuming John Krasinski is this way in real life because he's married to Emily Blunt. He's very thoughtful and he pays attention. I personally really like that he was named Sexiest Man Alive. I definitely agree. I love him. But I have seen people talking about how People magazine, when they pick Sexiest Man Alive, they normally are like a few years behind on the trends or like the man that everyone is talking about. I definitely see that. I definitely would agree with that to some extent. People magazine doesn't really capitalize on like who the internet is obsessing over, and a lot of people are like they should have picked, someone like Glenn Powell or a whole list of a bunch of people of like men that have been popular or just like people going crazy for that year specifically. If they really want to capitalize on who the world thinks is Sexiest Man Alive that year, then they need to pick up pace a little bit and not be a few years behind. I don't know that that's necessarily what they're trying to do. I don't think that they at least seem like they're not trying to jump on trends. They're trying to go with consistency. I mean, there could be multiple options every year. I think John's a good choice, and he's done a lot in the past few years, especially after The Office. Regardless, I decided that today we should do one of John Krasinski's films, his film If. If came out earlier this year, and John Krasinski himself is the director. He's also in it, and it had a great cast. I really, really loved the voice acting. It's pretty star-studded also, like all the voice actors. It's like very memorable voices. It's like you'd hear one and be like, oh my gosh, is that? Like, and it was really cool because I also think they did a great job of matching these different celebrities to a character that it just makes sense that their voice would sound like that. It was just really cool. I really liked the movie. It's a good family movie. I have a few thoughts on it though. This film has some beautiful cinematography in it. Like, there's different shots from, like, the stairwell and things. It's just so cool. But one shot specifically that just, like, every single time. It is so just breathtaking. It's when Bee's grandmother is listening to the music and she starts dancing again like she previously said she used to on stage. And her If Blossom is watching her. And the way the camera pans around to where we just see the grandmother's back, and it's like she's looking out into the windows of the river that's out front, and there's a light that points onto her, and it just mimics if we were watching from her perspective, being on stage and the lights hitting her and actually performing. It's so beautiful to watch. The soundtrack also is very good. I really enjoyed it. I think that this soundtrack does a really good job of leading the audience into different emotions, different feelings, into the moments. And it does a good job of like carrying you through and flowing you through from scene to scene. You know, it adds whimsy, it helps with the montages, it also really builds in the emotional parts. Speaking of like moments and emotional parts, this film has some really touching ones. It starts with like the classic home video footage of like a family and they're all happy and things are great, you know, really sets up like life is perfect, and then they're like, oh, one of the family members is actually dead. And that always kind of sucks. I always kind of laugh when movies do this because it's turned into like a meme online, you know, where people are like, this video looks like the home video of a mom playing like at the beginning of a horror movie, and it's like you find out this happened, or like, you know, things like that. And I'm like, that is exactly what this is. The reason why people keep doing it and why it's such a crutch is because it works. Like, it does set you up. Like, the moment that it started playing, I was like, we're about to get bad news. Like, this family is not all here. Somebody's missing. The movie definitely does make me tear up. I mean, it's about growing up and feeling like you have to be a serious adult and stuff, but it tells you, you know, like, just because you're an adult doesn't mean you have to lose your inner child. You know, you don't have to stop being creative and goofy and all this stuff. And it definitely, it gets that nostalgia point. But, like, I don't know, it's a sweet message of, like, just because you're growing up or you're an adult, you know, you don't have to stop making your inner child happy and things like that. And it's just really heartwarming and sweet, and it's a good lesson and all this stuff. John Krasinski's character, you know, he plays Bee's dad in it. He always makes jokes and he acts goofy, and Bee and the nurse at the hospital that he's in both are like, you have to stop. Like, whenever he's just goofing off so much in the hospital and doing all this stuff, and he always responds with never. Maybe he's trying to just keep things lighthearted so people don't have to deal with serious stuff, but he's really doing it for himself. The reason why he's never going to stop isn't because maybe Bee's growing up and she's like, no, just be serious with me. It's because he may not want to face it himself. I mean, he has a whole conversation with her about, like, why they might be feeling big emotions, but he uses terms like we and stuff like that, not just saying, like, you might be feeling this, but we might be feeling this. And it's because he does. He also needs comfort, even though he's an adult. And he needs a crutch sometimes to lean on to make himself laugh or feel happier when he's facing difficult situations, because he doesn't know how to get through it otherwise. Sometimes, though, the emotion and the moments in the film feel a little bit forced. Like, I mean, I could see this movie 5 times and I'd cry, like, every single time, multiple times, you know? Like, it's one of those that just, like, oh, right in the heart, you know? But some moments definitely do feel too cheesy and just a little too obvious. Some of the lines I'm just like, okay, like, that's really, really just laying it out there, you know? Some are just like, you almost didn't have to say that, you know, or you're watching and you're like, well, yeah, it's a movie. I mean, like, Bee keeps being like, I'm not a kid, like, you're 12. They set them up so well sometimes, but other times, like, the pauses are just so intense for a line that you're like, well, yeah, you know, like, that's just your reaction. I mean, there's one where it's like, how could she be good at this? And she's like, I'm a kid. Yeah, you are. Like, yeah, you are. I don't know if I'm being nitpicky or if it was just me or what, but I'm just like, sometimes I would watch and be like, that's really on the nose, or that's really cheesy, you know? I do want to talk about the character of Calvin, Ryan Reynolds' character, and Bee's If, which, pause for just a second. I do love the title of this movie. If, imaginary friend, like, or what if, as Steve Carell's character Blue states so clearly. That is another part where I'm like, why do we have a very long, like, him being like, get it? Get the movie's title? Like, I know he's explaining imaginary friends to Bee, but it does feel a little too on the nose. Like, we could have maybe shortened it. So, I don't know. Calvin, first of all, love the sarcasm, love the little cynical behavior a little bit, but I love that they made him like a real person instead of an object or CGI like pretty much every other if. It keeps you guessing about if he is a real person or if he is an if, which is really good. I mean, they even try to fool you into thinking that Lewis, the bear, is Bee's if, with that whole little like carnival scene where, you know, she's going back in time with him and holding his hand and all this stuff. But they do leave little hints about Calvin being her if. Like in the very beginning, I noticed this during my rewatch. In the photo of her and her family, there's like a clown's hand like putting down a little flower or something for her. Like that's Calvin, and he wears a little flower on his shirt. Like, and he has little moments where like someone will be like, well, their kids don't remember their ifs, and he like will glance at B. But one thing that I really, really like about his character is, especially in like the beginning of their sort of journey together where she's learning about the ifs and trying to help them, he's very like closed off and sarcastic and honestly a little hostile towards her, and it's because she doesn't remember him and he's upset by it. Like he's frustrated and maybe even a little bitter that she doesn't remember him, or keeps being like, I'm not a kid, I don't need help, you know, like that's just like a stab in the chest. So I really love that they made his character a little like snarky when it came to his relationship with her at first. I love the little detail of Lewis telling B that Calvin was a clown and his whole job was to make you laugh. And so you're thinking as an audience member, you is meant in the generic you, like his job was to make everyone laugh because he was a clown, but it's because he's her if, his only job was to make B laugh, which is why he's saying you specifically to her, not in the generic sense. I love that detail and the little play on words. A few little details. I love the animation of Calvin coming out of the painting and then the costuming of the painting and stuff like that on it. It is so good. I think the animation and CGI in general is really good in the movie. I love the characters and their little quirks. I loved seeing the details of, you know, it's from kids' imaginations of what they would want their imaginary friend to be like or what they need in that moment. And it's just really cool to see that. Also, the montage of B when she's with Lewis and Calvin at the like memory lane retirement home for all the ifs, when she's like being creative and Lewis is like, you can make this anything you want to be. And it's just like the whole montage of like her using her imagination and all the rooms transforming and Calvin's being thrown around. I love that montage. It's really cute. And also there are some shots in there that are pretty breathtaking as well, like Calvin in the pool. It's really cool. It's very heartwarming. I also really love the interview sequence when they're interviewing all the ifs to find out information about them. It's really, really well done and cute, and I like seeing all their personalities. Oh, the end of the movie is very good too, of finding out all the other ifs and who they belong to. And I just love how they tied in the characters that we met along the way, like regardless of how small their role may have been or not, and seeing which if goes with them and them reigniting that little childhood spark. It's so sweet and heartwarming. And Keith is so funny. It's such a funny bit, especially finding out that that's John Krasinski's character's if. And everyone, anytime they trip over Keith, it's like, Keith! Like, they're so angry. But when John trips over him at the very end, he's like, hey, Keith. Like, he knew it. And it kind of goes into the vibe that, you know, maybe John Krasinski doesn't really let his inner child die at all. So maybe he always knows that Keith is around. I don't think he necessarily lost Keith ever. But then I do remember the first time I watched it and, like, watching the credits, because me and my mom went and watched it together, and we were like, let's see, like, because we recognize some of these voices, let's see the other ones. And it was like Keith, Brad Pitt. And we were both losing our minds because that's so funny to me to, like, cast Brad Pitt as a imaginary friend that does not have a single line. I don't know, I just think that's a funny detail. It's really funny. But yeah, I mean, I think this movie is a really cute family movie. It's a good watch, you know. It has substance, it's really good, but sometimes I think it tries a little bit too hard to make you feel things and make you feel emotional, you know. But a lot of family movies do that. I mean, I do think it's a really good lesson overall of, you know, never take growing up too seriously, never take life too seriously. You know, you can still, even when you are an adult and you're grown up, you know, you still might need some of those things that you used as a kid to make yourself laugh or be goofy, stuff like that. It's really sweet message. So overall, I do enjoy this movie. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Emotionally, sometimes it flows, sometimes it feels a little too obvious, too forced. But overall, good watch. I do recommend it. Kind of a shorter episode this week. You know, holidays are coming up. I feel like everything is so busy right now, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Isn't that a Jim Carrey line from, is it from Bruce Almighty that he says that? Like, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Am I being crazy? Like, that's a real thing. Anyways, Pickle's pick of the week. I almost forget about these every time. Pickle's pick of the week this week is Tears Dry on Their Own by Amy Winehouse. I really like this song. I love her voice just in general. Like, it's so good. But this song has been stuck in my head all week, y'all. I don't know how to get it out of my head. It's just the part that's like, I don't understand. Why do I stress the man? Sorry, little mini concert, I guess. But it's stuck in my head. Check it out if you haven't already. I mean, it's Amy Winehouse. Come on. That's all that I have for you. I hope y'all have a great week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Again, like always, let me know what you want me to review. It can be a movie, TV show, YouTube series. Let me know what you want to hear me talk about. Remember, you are important. Okay? You are important. See y'all next week. It's time to close the jar. Bye!